Get roll. Thank you.
Unmuted.
Great. Welcome to our Climate Action Forum meeting on February 11th. We're going to get started with our meeting by starting with some introductions. My name is Sarah Margulies. I am the Larkspur City Council member that has been appointed to run the meetings for the Climate Action Forum. I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, and good evening. I'm Julian Skinner. I am the Public Works Director for the City of Larkspur.
I'm Katie Straub-Hutton, and I know many of you. I'm a member of CAF and also just generally a resident of Larkspur and generally plugged into electrification and climate groups. So happy to be here.
I'm Robin Muller and I live in Larkspur.
David Waller, I live in Larkspur and with the Larkspur Climate Group and various other groups.
JJ Andre, live in Larkspur, member of all those same groups.
All right, Annika, you want to introduce yourself? We'll move into your presentation in a minute. But
Okay, sure. Yes, I'm Annika Osborne and I am the Director of Programs and Community Outreach for Cool the Earth, working on the Ride and Drive Clean Initiative.
it's Annika, and online, does she have, she been, what do you call it, promoted to?
It says allow to talk. Yep.
Good
Jody, are
evening.
you there?
I am here. Can you hear me? I guess.
Okay.
This is Jody Timms.
Oh, she
Can
is?
you?
Oh, microphone.
Yeah, the microphone's going.
Let's see. Let me know when you can hear me, and I will say more, I guess. But or you can move on and catch me later. Whatever. Sorry to hold things up.
Hi, Jody. We can't hear you.
You can't? No.
Maybe the meeting owl.
Yeah, we'll try that.
Seems right. Sorry, Jody. We couldn't hear you. If you could hear us.
Jody, can you raise your hand if you can hear us?
Yes, I can hear
You can
you.
hear us, we just cannot hear her. Speaker. Okay, try again. Can you hear us now? Or can we?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We got it.
Yes, thank you.
You can hear me. Okay. Sorry to stall your meeting. This is Jody Timms, Chair of the Fairfax Climate Action Committee, and just a nosy climate activist.
Great, thanks, Jody. Okay, so we have I don't have any report or comments from council to report out this evening. I think Julian has a very brief staff update, which was texted to me, so let me give him my phone.
Thank you. Okay, so this is from Shannon O'Hare. This is the staff update for today's meeting. There's not much to report out from MCEP. Both Zero Waste Marin and MCEP, the region continues to work on improving sustainability, zero waste, and recycling at special events. Larkspur will be incorporating sustainable cleanup plans for picnic rentals and offering compostable foodware to interested parties who are renting picnic tables. That's Shannon's staff update.
Thank you. Okay, so unfortunately, Shannon is at a city manager meeting conference, so she is not able to join. So we're going to move on to our community presentation and discussion. And we have Annika here to talk to us about Cool the Earth. Thank you for joining us, Annika.
Thank you so much. Is Jody the only one over there on the
Yes.
Zoom? Okay.
Yep.
I know Jody pretty well, so
Okay, good.
that's great. Yes, so welcome everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to come speak. I think it was a couple months ago when I was supposed to come, and so I'm happy to be able to do that now. Today I'm gonna give an update on kind of where we're going and how we're pivoting here in 2026. As the landscape has changed a little bit. Ride and Drive Clean. So I've been working, Cool the Earth is a nonprofit environmental organization that's been around for about 20 years. kind of started here in Marin County. And we started the Ride and Drive Clean initiative about 8-9 years ago, when we realized that transportation was such a big part of our carbon footprint. So it would be kind of the biggest bang for our environmental buck to focus on transportation and electrifying our transportation, getting people out of gas cars is what I'd like to say. So we started this Ride and Drive Clean initiative, and to try to have sort of, well, the next slide kind of has our mission on there. So the Ride and Drive Clean initiative is sort of this network of partners that reach thousands of residents throughout the Bay Area to help reduce emissions by encouraging people to get out of their gas cars and switch to driving electric or riding an e-bike. We also focus on public transit and, all solutions, clean solutions, getting people out of their gas cars, with a big focus on EVs and e-bikes, really. Our approach combines community education and outreach to help people make the transition to riding and driving electric, empowering them with clean energy, which we're very lucky that we can do here in the Bay Area. The financial savings that our participants have achieved over the last 8 years through our programming shows that it's not only an environmental thing, but it's, reducing our own carbon footprints, but it's also really good for the household budget. So, next. So we're rolling out some enhanced programs to maintain the momentum. We have our EV discount and savings programs that we've been running for 7 or 8 years. We partner with car concierge services like brokers like Cartelligent and Emotion Autos to reduce the cost and make it a better experience for people to get an EV. We've literally helped thousands of people save hundreds of thousands of dollars collectively through our EV discount campaigns. We have one going on right now. So what happens is that when Cartelligent sees that they're able to negotiate some really good pricing on EVs, on a couple of EVs, we run these campaigns. And they're limited time campaigns that offer exclusive discounts that people are not able to get if they go straight to the dealer. So these are exclusive discounts through these programs. And those discounts often stack with other rebates, lease rebates. It used to be through the federal tax credit, but that one's gone now, but there are still lease rebates, cash rebates, financing rebates. So for example, right now, if people get some of the cars, you can save up to $15,000 off of, an EV. So that's pretty significant. And, so we've been helping people do this for about 6-7 years. And about 2 or 3 years ago, we partnered with Emotion Autos. They work on getting people into used EVs, which is really exciting because there's a really big market now for used EVs. Some of the longer range EVs that came out 3 years ago are now up for lease. So it's really a great opportunity for people to get a nice long range EV for a really good price. And I'll just talk a little bit about them. I've gotten 2 EVs through them. And what they do is you basically tell them exactly what you want, and they go to auction to get it for you. And for both of the times that I got my EV, my EVs, if you compare with like Kelley Blue Book or Edmunds, I got a price that was significantly lower because they can kind of get what they can when they can. So it's an interesting model. And these guys, it's not like your typical used car dealership. They are Stanford PhDs, and they're retired, and they're doing this for fun in their retirement, just trying to reduce emissions and do what they can do. So
Wow.
yeah, so that's pretty cool. So these programs are really strong, and I think a lot of people do EV outreach and education, but I think these programs kind of set us apart. They're kind of our niche programs. So yeah, we have a series of webinars like EV 101, save money on an EV. In January, we always do New Year, New Ride, showcasing some of the new EVs coming out. We do something like kind of an EV 102 for people who've recently gotten an EV. to just help them transition nicely into being EV owners. Including, we do a big focus on time of use rates and EV rates to make sure, and making sure people are getting clean energy and understand when they can get clean energy. Yeah,
So if we know if someone's looking to buy an EV, should we tell them to go to your website to find out about this?
totally, yes. So we have an event,
Or
a
can you go to your
calendar.
website or?
No, have them come
Okay.
to, so we do webinars.
Alright.
And the webinars, we
I mean, like
lead
the-
them.
Like what you're talking about, buying the car through
Yeah.
emotion or something. Go to you guys.
They can, well, let's see, they can reach out to us for
Okay.
sure, and I can leave a couple of cards also. They can reach out to us. Often when we have a special program going, we'll have webinars that go along with it, and then people can kind of sign up that way. But it's kind of good to go through our website, just because that way we make sure they get all those discounts.
Okay,
Because sometimes people are like, oh, we're just gonna reach out to Cartelligent because we don't know what to do, and
yeah,
then they might not get all the discounts if they don't come through us.
thank you.
Yeah, so
Is
either,
there-
yeah,
Is there also an qualification in terms of income level?
no,
Okay,
yeah, that's the nice thing about these. I mean, I'll say there are some California grants available right now that depend on your income.
mhm,
So there are 2 grants that are available. One of them, you can like swap out a 2007 or older gas car
mhm,
and get like up to $12,000 in Marin County, up to $10,000 on a new or used EV,
mhm.
lease or purchase. So for our lower income, community members,
Okay,
which sometimes can include, our seniors who are not making big income. So it's good to know.
Wait, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
The trade-in, is that trade-in thing, is that only income adjusted or is that anyone who?
That
has-
one's only income.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then there's another income one that is drive clean assistance program, and you don't have to trade in a car, and it's $7,500, but it is based on income.
Got it.
However, Governor Newsom did, recently announce that he's putting $200 million into a California state rebate. So we don't have all the details yet, but it's supposed to be coming pretty soon. Last time when we had a non-income qualifying rebate, it was $2,000. And he said that he's going to be offering this for people who this will be for their first EV. So not, he's like, well, we're not interested in getting people their like, $2,000 off of their 7th Tesla.
Right, sure.
Kind of thing. So
We're converting
this
cars.
is conversion.
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. It's great. It's more like middle market, because the early adopters would kind of pass the early adopters phase, and people who like to geek out on EVs and this technology, we all have our EVs already. So, now it's like trying to get into, the mass market really. So anyway, so we have a series of webinars that we typically do, and we just launched one. We're just trying to figure out like what can we do to kind of mix it up now, and so EV is better than ever. So really just focusing on all the benefits of EVs, not just the emissions reductions, but the cost savings with the incentives, but also, when you fuel an EV, it can be 2 to 5 times less expensive than fueling up a gas car, depending upon where and when you charge your EV. That's when we really talk about those time of use rates. Maintenance is 40% lower costs than a gas car. So that's really significant. We talk about like the great safety ratings of EVs. I mean, they're like such high-tech cars. They're like computers on wheels, really. So super safe, some of the safest cars out there, and just how fun it is to drive an EV. It's like powerful. You can just kind of, cruise up onto the freeway and change lanes quickly and easily. And
On your bottom bullet point there, how do you partner with cities specifically?
so, we do cities can sponsor webinars,
Okay,
and they can also sponsor EV and e-bike shows. I think typically that's what we've done in Marin
Okay.
County, where like Novato had us come up when they had an electrification fair. And so we organized that and brought like 8 to 10 EVs, and people could go and talk to volunteers, like EV owners, as well as some experts, like some dealers were there, kind of a mix of volunteers and owners. And we try to get We try to get locals who kind of like, if we were to do one with like maybe Larkspur and Corte Madera,
Mhm.
seems like that could make sense. You know, we'd get some local EV drivers, so people who are kind of recognizable in the community, and just a very low-key event, no pressure event typically.
Okay.
So,
Or like our city's slowly starting to buy EVs, should they? Is
Yeah.
it
Oh,
possible for the
yes.
city to buy through you guys?
they can buy through Cartelligent, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. But it would be also a really nice way for the city to be able to showcase some of their EVs.
Mhm.
And showing the community members that like the city is leading the way with, you know, EV adoption. Yeah, I don't know, how many EVs does the city have?
So Public Works right now has 4 EVs. The police department is in the process of rolling out a number of EVs. I'm not sure the number of EVs, but I know they're putting 23 charging stations in right now at the police station for those vehicles. So I think most of their fleet is being turned over. They have bought Chevy Blazers.
Nice.
Julian, are those at this police station?
They will be, yeah. Some of them are there. They have to go through a process where they have to get equipped with all of the things that a police vehicle needs in addition to what comes stock. So that takes some time. But they have already started some of them taking delivery, and I've seen a couple on the streets already. So I think as they get outfitted, they're rolling them out. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually asking about the charger location, the 23 chargers. Is that gonna be at this?
Oh, that started. Yeah, it's going to be at this CMPA. Yeah.
It's not available though for public use.
Right.
It's just for public, yeah, for your.
They're for the police
the fleet,
vehicles. Yeah,
yeah.
they're going to be for the vehicles that are inside their gate. Yeah.
I think some of the police community service officers are
Mhm.
driving smaller EVs.
Mhm.
Yep. They have some bolts. Yeah.
And is the charging all level 2 charging? Is there any
Yeah.
level 3 charging?
Not level 3. They're all level 2s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the city of San Rafael is investing in some level 3, just for some of the. Just to make sure they have like a quick charge.
Yeah.
In case of emergencies. So I was just kind of curious. I know you're significantly smaller than San Rafael, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a big PG&E upgrade to get level 3 chargers. The sites, if you look at where the Tesla charging station is in town and some of the others that are going up in Marin, there's big electrical transformers and units that are behind fences. It's quite an upgrade. Level 2 in of itself, if you have enough of them, is they had to do some work with PG&E, the police did, to be able to put the chargers in there just for the level 2s. But level 3s is a whole other level of power that often requires PG&E to make improvements offsite too.
Totally.
So that's
Yeah,
a
no, I know
challenge.
it's more complicated and
Yeah.
a lot more expensive as well. But yeah, can be, but the nice thing now is with the NACS, you guys have some Tesla chargers, and with the new NACS, that even some of your fleet vehicles could even use those chargers in an emergency
Mhm.
and get a quick charge. So that's cool. All
Well,
right, next. So we're talking a little bit about community programming, and this is what our customers say. Basically, 98% of people either already drive electric or say that we've like kind of helped move the needle in their decision to drive electric. Some people, so we do webinars quite frequently, and some people come to 3 or 4 webinars before they get an EV. It's like a new technology, it's a big jump for people, so. We had a webinar, I guess it was yesterday, Tuesday, yeah, at noon, and there were 75 people who signed up. This was not actually sponsored by anybody, but 75 people signed up and 55 people came to a noon webinar on a Tuesday. So, yeah, so we're still getting some traction and lots of interest.
Yeah, this is encouraging. Do you have even just like directionally info on the demographic of folks that tend to come to your webinar? Are they people who?
We don't really ask demographic information.
I'd just be curious if they're like particular jurisdictions that are really popular, or like age
locally in
groups,
Marin
or
County.
yeah, I just purely out of curiosity, like who are the types of folks in Marin County that tend to go to these webinars?
It's funny, at first, like when we first started doing this programming, it was like a lot of retired women. And it was like, we want to save this earth for our grandchildren, basically.
Oh, yeah.
That was sort of like something that stood out for us,
Mm-hmm.
but now, we're seeing much more diverse group. And that's not just Marin County, So we have like 25,000 people who follow us. So when we send out a newsletter, it gets sent out to people throughout the Bay Area. So Palo Alto, Berkeley, San Jose are all, in attendance at these webinars. Sometimes people on the East Coast, sometimes Dubai. I have somebody from Dubai who comes sometimes. I'm like,
Cause I was gonna ask
Listen.
about that too, like obviously it's a Bay Area focused group, but it's like kind of a data dork myself, or I think of my parents, for example, who live in Chicago, or my friends who live on the East Coast, and like they are far less immersed in this culture, and
Yeah.
I'm just curious if you get people like that joining across the board. Sounds like you do.
yeah,
Which is
yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely, the demographic has definitely changed, and sometimes the titles are like save money on an EV or exclusive discounts on an EV, and then I think we're getting a broader kind of income range on those. And some people come who've gotten some of these state grants, and they want to like stack these discounts with the state grants that they've gotten, and sort of.
So you can help people even if they aren't in the state of California, like you can still provide them with.
I mean,
like,
basic
information.
EV education, but we're pretty catered to
makes
California and the rebates and stuff that people can get here
Right.
locally. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, next. Okay, so starting with some of the good news, Marin County achieved a remarkable milestone in 2025. 40% of new cars were EVs in Q3 2025. The nice thing about that also is we can look at some of the CEC data and see that it's a variety of EVs, not just Teslas, even though Tesla Model 3s and Model Ys are like the most commonly bought EVs, but it's just nice to see that there are other players in the market now.
So is that through DMV registrations?
Yes, so we see those through DM, yeah, and
Okay.
that gets uploaded to the CEC. It's a great website. I can share it with you
Oh, yeah.
later. Yeah, so you can kind of
Does
see
it break
by
it down
by
by
zip
city?
code.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
even like
Oh,
just so you can see how many like
Yeah.
Chevy Blazers there are, for example, in Larkspur, exactly. And how many Tesla,
I would love that.
Yeah,
If you could
okay,
provide that
I'll
would
share
be great.
to you. Yeah, it's cool.
And that is specifically just for Q3.
That was Q3. We
Okay.
saw that in Q4, things went down significantly. There was a big drop. I think in October, there were still some good lease deals, and then and then after the federal tax credit, yeah, things kind of went.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
the federal tax credit is just one of many
Mhm.
rebates and
Mhm.
incentives. We've survived before without federal tax credits.
Mhm.
Sort of new the last 3 years. We've really had them. We had some a while before then as well, but just for a few EVs, they had to be, so it's not a game changer, I mean, completely. And the really cool thing is that there are now, in 2026, there are 30 EVs under $50,000. And $50,000 is the average cost of a car in the United States in 2026.
Amazing.
I know. So 30 different EVs, and then there are several under 30,000. The upgraded Nissan Leaf has over 300 miles of range and it's like around 30,000, and the Chevy Bolt is coming out. Upgraded also, a 2027 model is on sale now. Unfortunately, it's going to be limited just for about a year. It's such a popular car, but faster charging, which is really nice if you've ever been on a road trip with the Chevy Bolt. Faster level 3 charging. Yeah.
The other neat stat I heard is California specific. #1 SUV, not electric SUV, #1 SUV in the price over $75,000 state of California last year, Rivian SUV.
Oh, yeah.
It beat all the gas powered ones.
Amazing, yeah.
Sales.
And the R2 is coming out
Yeah, later this year.
sometime in the first half of this year, so that's gonna be really
That's gonna be
exciting.
below 50.
Yeah, more in the $45,000 range, and that's one of the cars I was featuring for my New Year, New Ride presentation, and it's like, it has over 300 miles of range, which is amazing for that price and that kind of car,
Good
yeah.
looking car.
I know,
Really good looking.
it's gonna be really popular in Marin and the Bay Area. So yeah, so we can see that Q3, the federal tax credit positively, and everybody was trying to get in before that federal tax credit went away. But the thing that we're seeing, of course, is that most EV adoption is for people who live in single family homes, who can easily charge even by just plugging into a standard outlet, if not, with an EV charging station. It's so much easier. They can really get that value with the time of use rates. So we still have a big kind of deficit with multifamily people who live in apartments and condos. So that's something that we definitely need to work on. I know several people in this room are working on this, so we can have an equitable transition to, clean cars and clean energy. And I know that's kind of the big nut to crack right now. Next. So yeah, some of the challenges in 2026, we already talked about the loss of the federal tax credit. Right now, the MCE rebate is on pause. It actually, we work very closely with MCE. They fund some of our programming. And they said they were gonna throw an extra $1 million into the pot for, I guess they ran out of money in like October. So they were gonna tide over like the next 6 months with $1 million, and then they didn't. There were some, as we all know, there have been some things in the news about MCE and the budget, and I think they had to sort of put that on hold. But from what I understand, I just kind of watched that MCE budget meeting. Maybe some of you did as well, and it sounds like, I think they gave like 1,000 rebates over the last year, and they're gonna give 850 this year. So fund enough to give like 850 rebates. So hopefully that will come back in the beginning of April. We'll see how that goes, hopefully. Yeah, so we are seeing this, another challenge is like this slowdown in purchases from, sorry, I updated these slides a little bit. It's probably not refreshed, but Q4 2025, pretty lackluster, and then early 2026. And then, it's really frustrating to see these OEMs pulling back after they've invested so much money in building EVs, and now they're like switching over to gas cars again. And so it's frustrating to see that. And, it's consumers, it's been hard for consumers because like they're not really sure about pricing. Should we get it now? What's going to happen? The tariffs, and, it's been such an unpredictable year for everyone in so many ways. But the other thing that we see still is the consumer misperceptions about EV pricing, range, and charging options. So that's why we think that outreach and education is still really important.
Talk to us about the misperceptions about charging options.
Well, people don't want to get an EV if they can't charge at home, or they think they have to get a level 2 charger at home.
Okay.
We work closely with Peninsula Clean Energy as well, and they've done a study there in their service area that 94% of people would be fine just plugging into a standard outlet. And so I was just at a big EV infrastructure conference also, and like we need to get like 1 million EV chargers in by 2030. And I think we have like 200,000 now. So we have a lot of work to do. And actually Philip from PCE was presenting, and he was like, level 1 is cheap, easy, you don't have to build big transformers, and just, but the key to level 1 charging is making sure that people can charge where they park their car.
Yeah.
So you don't want people in a big apartment building to come home and park and then have to be like moving it in the middle of the night or trying to find an open space. Like it needs to be right, but it's easy to do that with level 1, just putting in standard outlets. So I mean, I think something in the back needs to happen as well to make sure there's the capacity of the building. But there's a lot of innovation happening right now. Yeah. The other thing is some people have EVs and they've never gone on a road trip, and they're afraid to go on a road trip. And, it's quite easy to go on a road trip with an EV. And now, especially with the NACS network opening up to everyone, whether it's a native Tesla port or an adapter, it's just going to make road tripping so much easier. I tell people I drive to LA and back a lot, and I tell people I stop twice for like 20 minutes. It's great. Like to stretch my legs. Yeah, exactly. I'm happy to stop at night. Sometimes I'll stop an extra time even if I got too big of a drink at my second stop. Okay, so yes, so we're going to be targeting, the next most likely buyers. So like middle and lower income drivers, renters, and people in multifamily apartments and condos, and used EV shoppers. We've talked about that great opportunity now. There are a lot of EVs. I just read an article today that came out saying that there's been like an increase, like a 15% increase in used EV purchases so far this year compared to last year, even. So we're really seeing that people are having that confidence, you know, of course, with a used EV, the big question is the battery, like,
Mhm.
how long is the battery gonna last? So making sure that, you know, it sounds like people are feeling confident, like they can get a battery of a car, you know, if they can get a car that has been around for 3 or 4 years, confidently knowing that they'll get many, many more years out of, you know, out of an EV. Yeah.
This is a bit of a wild card, so you feel free to punt it. But when I see like some strategic moves, have you all ever considered like partnerships with like Uber and Lyft or Waymo, or like,
Yeah.
at least talking to them? Because I know that they have this offering, but I can only imagine it's a very small part of their inventory.
Yes.
But just considering they have so much capital and so much influence and resource,
Totally, yeah.
obviously we still need to do this, but I'm just curious if you've ever thought of that.
Yeah, I know Carlene has talked to Uber and Lyft like years ago, doing education for Uber and Lyft drivers. Now, recently, at this last conference I was at, people are like, yeah, Waymo, Uber and Lyft might not be around much longer.
But even electric Waymo, I mean, I don't know what their manufacturing plans are, but like, there you go, it's just a bunch of robots anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Like, curious, I don't know, just curious if
Totally.
they could all be plugged into some massive parking infrastructure somewhere and just.
So
be the
it's
future.
interesting, I heard somebody who works for Waymo talk about how it works. So basically, when those cars get down to like 20% charge, they, you know, because it's like their algorithm, they know exactly where the closest charging station is for, you know, they have their own network of chargers and they just go there. I mean, if you think about like Uber and Lyft drivers who sometimes get lost and are sometimes like just trying to
Do
like.
their chargers plug in robotically, or does a human have to plug them in and out?
That's a good question. Wow, and I wonder if they may even have some sort of mat that they can just drive
Yeah.
onto or something.
Touch
That is a
Wireless
really good
charging?
question. I don't know that, but now I need to find out.
And I'll tell you how I'm thinking that, you know, that 17-story building that's just been planning approval in Centerville? It's proposed to have a automated parking system, a robotic parking system. And so I actually did a little research, can you have EV charging with a robotic
Yeah.
System? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
And the robotic system actually will take the car and bring it up to a charger and plug it in. And they made the point, it's pretty darn efficient because they'll know when that car is charged and they can move that car into a non-charging space and move another car that's scheduled for charging into that space. So the answer generally is yes.
Like it's possible, theoretically,
Yeah.
yeah. I dropped off my daughter at her apartment in LA and they have that same thing and I saw there's EV charging and my daughter doesn't have a car. I was like, how does this work? This looks really interesting. But that's some pretty great technology, a little better than like valet. I think I was in San Francisco at this conference last week and I mean, there were like 30 cars and like the guy had to like move them around and you know, like that's something AI and robots can definitely help with.
Right, and it makes sense that the Uber and Lyft play is less relevant in a Waymo world.
At this point, yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you were stuck in one of those Waymos a couple of weeks ago when the PG&E went out and yeah.
I'm guessing you guys are already doing this, but if you are pivoting to the next most likely buyers, you mentioned, you know, anywhere to 2 to 5 times less to charge than to fuel a gas powered vehicle. But my experience has been the maintenance on these cars is next to nothing.
Yeah.
So, you know,
40%
letting
less.
people know they don't have to change
Yeah.
their brake pads, they don't have to change their oil, like there's.
Just
Totally, yeah. So it's like the low cost of charging, of
Yeah,
fueling
yeah.
and maintenance is like
Operating.
huge, yeah. So it's been usually like the big barrier is getting in, you know, initially getting into an EV. And then once you have an EV, if you can charge at home, then there's cost savings, you know. But if you have to rely on public charging, not so much cost savings, you know, so. And you would think, like, I was over in the Canal neighborhood in San Rafael today, and there was a Tesla parked in the parking lot there. In a parking garage, and I was like, Tesla works because they have Tesla charging like a mile away at the Whole Foods, and they can
Mhm.
just easily, but they're not getting that cost savings unless they go at really weird times of the day, because
Right.
Tesla's on like time of use and it's like 20 cents a kilowatt hour at like from 3 to 5 in the morning or something like that.
Yeah,
But yeah, so that's
when you encourage them to buy, like I did, an SC01, which is the supercharged comes with the vehicle.
oh,
So I bought a used Tesla
yeah,
and it's old.
Yeah.
But I don't pay for charging because it came with, the vehicle came with supercharging.
Free supercharging, that's right.
Mhm.
That was like that early incentive.
Yeah, and those
Really
vehicles
is.
are out there, people are getting rid of them, you have to trust that the battery's gonna live for, I'm hoping
Oh,
for
yeah.
300 to 500,000 miles.
I mean, that's what we're saying, 300 to 500,000 miles, and
Yeah.
some of them, like, I think Elon talks about the 1,000,000 mile battery but the thing is, I talked to so many people who have a 2011 Nissan Leaf. Which came, I think, with 80 miles of range initially, and it's down to like 40 miles of range, and they're like, oh, it's a great round the town car. Just
Yeah.
plug it in at home
Yeah.
and it's perfect. I
Yeah.
mean, most people in the Bay Area, or the average amount of miles people drive in the Bay Area is 25.
Yeah.
So most people would be fine with something, I mean, if you had another car for something else, but yeah. There's always gonna be a use for an electric car, even, yeah, for somebody who has a set commute or something, so.
Yeah.
I'm not as worried about that. I think that was like a big worry in the beginning. And what we're seeing also is the battery degradation isn't happening as quickly as they thought it would happen.
True.
So that's really cool. So we did get a grant from the county, so we're gonna be
Oh, great.
doing some outreach and education to apartment and condo owners. So if that's something the city can do as well, if
Mhm.
you guys could introduce us to any apartments or condos,
Mhm.
and we can, talk to them about opportunities. It's cool. I mean, just in the past few years, there are so many different solutions for charging in apartments and condos. There's like these smart charging systems. The one that I really like, Go Power EV, has both level 1 and level 2 in between like 2 parking spots. So it's brilliant. Each one can do level 1, and then if one needs level 2, they can plug into that one. And so it's there at everybody's parking space, and they're even able to hook up. They're doing some pilots right now down in Millbrae, hooking up with people's meters so that they're getting, if they're on Care and Farah, for example, the low income electricity rates, they can benefit from those when they charge their EV.
You may already be doing this, but one thing that comes to mind is for multifamily, is like the new construction, like all these, whatever 18-story buildings we're talking about, like that's a different segment than people retrofitting.
Yes.
And there's a lot of that, it's not just in Marin, but around the entire Bay Area. And I wonder if there's an opportunity for you guys there to be working with developers so that their garages are built from day one the right way.
Yes.
They don't have to then retrofit.
And cities have, I mean, isn't there like does the Larkspur say like all new buildings have to have?
At least
Yeah,
plumbed.
actually, I know quite a bit about this, I work with the Marin Electrification Council. And unfortunately, most of the developers of the new large multi-family housing are waiving all of the local requirements, enhanced requirements for EV parking and charging. Almost all of them are waiving those, as well as for e-bikes. So like if say the local jurisdiction had a requirement that for a given building like that building needed to have 300 bike parking spaces, they're waiving that, which they can do with the density bonus clause.
Oh, like under builder's remedy.
Building
Not even
17.
that, just density bonus, they say
Yeah.
we'll do X% at low market rate. And these are the things we want to waive with the local ordinances. So most of that stuff is being waived. So what we're doing is we're reaching out directly to the developers and trying to convince them to future-proof their building
Mhm.
by at least putting in the conduits and
Yeah.
stuff and the electrical capacity for future charging. We simply say, look at that 41%. This is what your tenants are going to want going forward. Maybe right now it's only, 10 or 20% of your tenants want this, but look forward 10 years, 15 years, they're all gonna want it.
Yeah.
You need to put in the basic infrastructure now, even if you don't actually put in the chargers all over the place.
Right.
So that's what we're doing in direct outreach, and we've actually gotten thousands of units to go all electric, even
Okay.
before the 25 code.
Okay,
And many of them have also gone for enhanced EV parking, so we're having some good success there.
And David, I should know this, I should be quizzed on this, but with the density bonus. So there's absolutely no like guidance on what can and cannot be waived, like anything can be waived or like.
Not the state level code requirements, but
course not.
local code requirements, they can waive everything. This is only for residential housing, multifamily housing. So like if it was a commercial building or something, they can't waive.
Less so, okay.
But for
Maybe that's what I'm
multifamily
remembering.
housing, it's to stimulate construction.
Got it,
Okay.
thank you.
I'm just
And they're
wondering
doing
how,
it, they're waiving all this.
what's gonna happen with all of those extra cars added? I live in San Rafael, so
Yeah,
what's gonna
yeah.
happen with all those extra cars on the road, cause it's already totally gridlocked?
Yeah.
Like,
And of course, some of, here's a really interesting thing. I'm not gonna go too far down this path. But take the 17-story building. Not only because they did propose a sufficient number of below market rate units that gave them the density bonus so they could waive all the local ordinances. That they didn't waive all of them, but they pick and chose.
Mhm.
But the other thing is they're within a half mile of a major transportation hub, the
Mhm.
San Rafael Transportation Center.
Mhm.
And therefore, there is zero requirements for any parking
Yeah.
space, none.
Yeah.
That's at the state level. None are required, none. And that building's gonna have, I think, about 250 units in it.
Hmm.
No parking requirements, none. And most of the new big buildings that are in planning or have been approved in the downtown San Rafael area, most of them do have some parking, but none of them are required to because they're within a half
The
mile of
TOC.
that. So that's the state solution
Right.
to the traffic.
To the
They won't
yeah.
have cars.
Yeah,
They'll
cars will be-
be transported.
Yeah, well, I
Cause
just
smart
look at
take
data.
you everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm all for encouraging public transit, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
I would like to see data on like if there is meaningful increase in use of public transit as a result of that, or if it's wishful thinking, or if we don't know enough yet.
Hard to know, but I'm just saying, it's important when we're talking about these specific things, and the parking and the charging and stuff. And
Exactly.
multifamily housing, that stuff's at least being substantially reduced through waivers.
I mean, are people even gonna wanna rent these buildings if there's
It's
no
an interesting
parking?
question,
Yeah.
if you
I
have
have to.
people that don't have cars.
Yeah. They have bikes.
Or like
Right.
as part of the, and I know we're piling on here, but it makes me think about, I know there's a lot of education that you all do. And I don't know how heavy-handed this you all can be, but it makes me think about. What you can do if you're a renter to talk with your landlord. I mean, there's so much that we're doing with Marin Electrification Council as an external group, but I think hearing from your tenants, if you being able to, as part of the education programs through Red, Dry, and Clean, is like, talk to your landlord, to get your friend to talk to your landlord too, like kind of collective action stuff, but.
It's interesting, we have that as like something, if you live in an apartment or condo, advocate. And this kind of brings me to my last point, where, not only looking at this MFH, but we've been working for about 4 years with equity communities throughout the Bay Area in partnership with local CBOs. So out in Pittsburgh, down in San Jose, Vallejo, in San Rafael, in the Canal, up in Novato as well. And they're like, people do not want to talk to, they
They're not
avoid.
Yeah, they don't
their
want to be
landlords.
troublemakers.
They don't
yeah.
want to be kicked out.
Mhm.
They're so afraid to lose their apartment. So there's that like
Hmm.
fear of gentrification thing as well, and like fear of
Opportunity.
advocacy,
And you ask for it and your rent goes up.
Yeah, exactly. Amenities, right?
Yeah.
I just have like one more slide. So
Hmm.
I know we're probably going a little over. So
Yep.
what are our priorities? We're going to continue with our, educating residents. We, because there are still so many misconceptions about, misperceptions about EVs. We still are going to do events and webinars. We've been doing one out in Ross Valley for like 4 years with Jody and Sue Saunders out there. It's been highly successful. The key is to get to a place where lots of people are walking by and doing a lot of outreach in advance.
Mhm.
We're going to continue with our EV discount campaigns, but you'll see them branded more like exclusive EV discounts. That's kind of what we're calling them moving forward. And we'll be working also with our used EV partner as well as with Cartelligent. Trying to accelerate multifamily charging, getting, having conversations with property owners and managers. I know the Marin Electrification is focused on that as well. And we are going to be launching a new home electrification campaign.
Excellent.
So not really building, because it's just going to be residential.
Yeah.
So we did a sort of a survey with some of our with the 25,000 people who follow us, and we got very positive feedback that they love information about electrifying their homes as well. So we're excited about that. We have this kind of model that we've been using with this Ride and Drive Clean initiative. And so we're excited to kind of take this model and apply it to home electrification. So we had a nice field trip up to Sonoma Clean Power's Customer Center. If you guys haven't been there yet, it's worth the visit. They got a grant for $10 million to design it and build it out, the program out, and it's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, it would be so great to have something like that in Marin County.
We're in Sonoma, it's in Santa Rosa.
It's in Santa Rosa, yeah. Yeah.
Bachelorette party there, maybe I can take the group.
So on
Sounds
the
like
last
me.
one on the building electrification, I think that's a great idea. I know Carlene's been talking about the building electrification or the Marin
Right.
Electrification Council, but one of the slots that it fills is people really want just someone to talk to.
Mhm.
Who's an advocate for them, who's not trying to extract anything from them, but trying to link them up with places and knowledge and so on. And Ride and Drive Clean's done a great job on that on the EV side.
Right,
And so translating that over to the building side, I think is gonna be very successful.
thank you. Yeah, I think it's really necessary, and I think the biggest question that people have is, where do you start?
Exactly.
Like, how do you get started, and really kind of, so guiding people through the steps and giving them resources where they can go. I mean, we're not gonna be like deciding, oh, this one is better for your house, get this heat pump over that one. But, at least sharing the resources and doing a general education.
When do you hope to launch that campaign?
Well, I think we're going to be, so we have a bunch of EV shows coming up in April and May, and I think we're talking right now about having an extra table at these. It's interesting because we do this like vehicle to load demo where we have an induction cooktop and like an electric kettle and a cooler and a popcorn maker plugged into a car battery to kind of demonstrate the vehicle to load for
Mhm.
resiliency.
Mhm.
So, also just talking more about these for, home electrification, and like you could just plug one of these in and, in a little portable induction cooktop and do most of your cooking on that.
Yeah.
Maybe an air fryer. The challenge is that, when people cook dinner from 4 to 9 p.m., electricity is expensive. But there are some cool products out there. There's this Copper Charlie. I just got one this year, and it's a stove that has a battery in it.
Mhm.
So every day, because I have solar, it's like collecting,
It just plugs into 110, right?
plugs into 110. We actually had to convert from 240 to 110.
Mhm.
And then, I know, it's like.
You're defeating the purpose.
I know. Yeah, but it's a battery, so like the same day that we installed it, we lost power, which we rarely do, and so I was able to cook it, and you can cook like 5 meals on the battery.
Wow.
So, but that makes me feel better about using my stove and my oven.
Yeah.
At that time of the day, so,
The flip side of that's a perfect time to run from your home batteries 4 to 9.
Yeah.
right, exactly. I don't have home batteries, so that's how this was an advantage for me. And there are a lot of incentives out there, like a state incentive for like up to $8,000 you can get we just electrified our whole house, so we got $8,500 from the state, like home energy.
Great.
Yeah, so there are some incentives out there and still things that we can do, even though sadly the federal tax credits have sunsetted for now.
All
For
right.
now, hopefully. Yes, so more EV discount campaigns, multifamily. I think I've talked about all these things. Yeah, the home electrification. So, yeah, so we were thinking of doing this, having this extra table and advertising a webinar at all of these events that we're doing in April and May, and maybe at the end of May, we'll do a webinar
Okay.
and invite people
Okay.
to come to that.
Okay.
That's kind of our plans right now. Nothing firm, but yeah. Well, I know we did a lot of questions throughout. So anyway, yeah. Oh, I think there's one more. Is there a call to action? So yes, partner with us, co-host events, help us promote events. So I don't actually know at Larkspur, I think I send stuff to Shannon.
Mhm.
Whenever we have our discount campaigns, I send out to like 180 partners throughout the Bay Area to help promote and get the word out. So that's super helpful. It would be great to do an event. I don't know if it makes sense to do Larkspur and Corte Madera. I don't know how you guys work together, or just the Larkspur event, or
You can do both.
Let's do both.
You can do them separately. We have a new library opening soon.
Yeah.
somebody just reached out to me
It's called
about
the
that.
Commons, and so like there's great outdoor space.
Yeah.
The landscaping's not quite there yet, but it will be lit soon. You have to do an outdoor table this summer.
Oh, yeah, we could do, yeah, absolutely. We could do an EV show there, we could do, yeah. So the problem is funding, so we need funding to do these things. So,
Okay, okay,
yeah, sometimes we can use some TAM funding that we have, but that is not so much, but, so trying to get
How
funding.
much does it cost to
Yeah.
put on an EV car show?
So $10,000
Okay.
is, you know, like Ross Valley, so we get 5,000 from Fairfax, 5,000 from San Anselmo.
okay,
And sometimes TAM has been able to kind of add to that, sometimes MCE has been able to contribute a bit, but both of those are now not,
okay,
for now anyway.
that's helpful.
But it's sad, I was just talking to somebody at the county and they were like, no, this is what people want, they want MCE to be giving money to community events and. Yeah, so we'll see what happens, we'll see, I think there are some upcoming meetings with MCE and see how they decide to go. But yeah, so that's why it's nice to partner with another
Yeah,
jurisdiction so that.
yeah. Split the cost.
Yeah,
Definitely,
piece of it,
okay,
but yeah,
thank you.
thank
so
you,
much
yeah,
for
thanks so much
that.
for having me and.
Yeah, this is really
thanks for
helpful.
all your great work that you guys are doing. 23 EV charging stations, that's awesome. It's great that you've been electrifying your fleet.
That's the police station.
That's Central Marin.
But more.
Yeah,
How many are there gonna be at the?
It's gonna be 8 chargers and then it's plumbed for 8 future ones.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Really great.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, now I remember how I know you from that electrification down. So.
Yeah. Zoom boxes, you know.
Yeah.
all right, thank you again for coming on, I probably really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you
Have a
so
great
much.
night.
Yeah, have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you. All right. So updates and presentations, we are going to adopt the December 11th, 2025 Climate Action Forums as is, unless anybody here had any input. Nope, okay, all right. And then we're gonna move over to Julian, who's gonna talk about, the city fleet and equipment electrification update. Where we stand currently.
Yeah.
Just to give us.
Before we start,
Oh, sure.
I just got a text, well, I didn't just get it, but Lena, Petovsky is trying to get in. She's having trouble. She says,
Oh,
having trouble accessing the meeting via Zoom. Do you happen to know if the call has been set up? So is Jody still on?
yeah,
Yep, or, yep,
Jody's not there either.
yes, she is. I just had it flipped over to panelist view. Yeah,
can we share, the Zoom? Do you have an email for her?
It's a text message.
I have her
Uh,
email.
Yeah, I probably did.
Juliana, would be easy for you to copy the link and send it via email, or
you see.
I can do it? If, I don't, actually,
Yeah, I can copy it from I can send a copy of the agenda that has the Zoom link in the header.
What was the question?
the agenda that has the Zoom link in the header, he can send her a copy of that.
Okay.
Do you wanna give us her email? Do you know it off the top?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Okay,
I think I have it.
Also, if there's any other technical difficulties, I see Lena a lot, so I'm gonna
Okay,
give her an update.
Here's her email.
Okay.
LENA.PYATKOVSKY@gmail.com.
how do you pronounce that last name?
We'll have her say it. I don't actually know how to say it very well.
Okay,
Can you read that back? Lena.PWAT.
No, PYA.
PYA.
PKOVSKY.
do you need that again?
Maybe.
Yeah, he's trying to do it on his phone.
PYATKOVSKY@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Subject is.
But that is she. Yeah, she's the one who's up on Wilson. I'm actually further down on Alt.
Oh, you're an
Yeah.
Oh, my sister's on the line.
Nice. Oh, nice.
I just sent her an email with the agenda attached as a Word file, and the Zoom link is embedded in the header of the meeting.
Needs the energy with us. So yeah, it's all the same song, different verse, you know.
Okay.
Keep going?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so an update on our fleet and equipment electrification. So currently Public Works has most of the vehicles for the city, not counting the other public safety agencies, police and fire. We have a crew of 6 maintenance workers. So we have 6 maintenance vehicles that each one is assigned to. And then we have a public works superintendent who has a vehicle, and then we have a couple of vehicles for engineering that are shared between the inspector and the engineers. Our first EV purchase was swapping out some older gas vehicles for 2 new electric Golfs. So we initially leased those about 4 years ago, and then we ended up buying the leases out so that they're now ours. They get used intermittently. They're pretty much we have a field technician who goes out and investigates stormwater reports, and sometimes our engineers have to go out to job sites, so they kind of get run all over town. And then our next purchase was we moved up a little bit. The Golfs are really nice, but they're not very versatile for some of our more rugged terrain. If we have to go to job sites or if we have to throw, we can fit like 2 barricades in the back of them, and then it's another trip. So last year we purchased 2 F-150 Lightnings, which are also 100% electric, and we decommissioned 2 of our older gas pickups with that replacement. One of the challenges we found was the Golfs before we were charging them with a trickle charge, so a level 1 charger, which was okay for the most part. But with the F-150s, they actually the package that we bought came with level 2 chargers. And so we had an electrician come in, and he got the level 2 chargers in, but said, that's it, you're done. If you need anything else at this site electric, you're going to need to upgrade your panel. Our issue at the
That's the corporate
at the
yard?
corp yard, yeah. Our issue at the corp yard is it's not our panel. It's we rent space as part of TAM Unified High School District's corp yard. So we would have to upgrade the whole building electric to do that. So we've been using the level 2 chargers for the F-150s and the Golfs, kind of swapping and playing parking lot swap with the 2 spaces we have. And the idea is to monitor that over time and see. The good thing about the F-150s is they have a good amount of range. The Golfs only have about 120 miles. The F-150s are 300 miles or so. So they don't need to be charged every day. So right now it's working out pretty well. Because we had initially thought our impediment to buying more electric vehicles was going to be that we were going to have to upgrade our panel and work with the school district to get more chargers in. But we're trying to crunch the numbers now with a long enough use profile that we can see if we can get by with just the 2 chargers.
Sorry to interrupt. I was just curious. I mean, since we have a lease with the school district, what about using the chargers that they just installed in the new parking lot, in the east parking lot or the north parking lot at the school? I mean,
Yeah, it's an option. Also, when we do the new rec building over in Piper, we're going to put another half dozen chargers over there. So
Right.
there's definitely other options. I think for convenience, I mean, these are pickup trucks that they load up with tools every day, so it's most convenient to have them at the yard. If we can make it work out by just alternating and strategically charging them with what we have, that's kind of the best solution. And I think, yes, probably driving a truck over to Piper, over to the library, rather than paying for electrical upgrades on somebody else's building, probably might end up being a better path. But yeah, so far the feedback from staff that have been using the F-150s has been nothing but positive. We were a little concerned if we had any of these long power outages and we're running around in storms that we'd have issues with range, but that just hasn't really materialized or been an issue. So I think we'll be looking at what the next 2 lowest or oldest gas pickup trucks are on the list, and looking to sequentially start systematically replacing them out, probably with F-150s or whatever the truck of choice is at the time. I know the police went with the Blazers.
what is the total number of vehicles that we have then? in
So-
our inventory?
Yep, so regular vehicles, there are 6 pickup trucks. Well, sorry, there's 5 pickup trucks and 1 van
Okay,
that are gas.
okay,
And then there are 2 electric pickups and 2 electric Golfs.
okay,
And then there are other specialty vehicles. There's 2 dump trucks that are gas. There's a flatbed truck that's gas.
okay. So, but realistically then, what we could probably update or upgrade is the first that you said, 5 pickup trucks and 1
Yeah,
van.
yeah, 2 of the van rarely gets used.
Okay,
It's like an 11-person, it's not a minivan, it's like
Oh,
a van
gotcha.
van.
okay,
That I think it's a remnant from when we had the childcare center and there would
Okay.
be trips or
Okay.
whatever, so it rarely gets used. But yeah, the other pickup trucks that get used daily would be candidates. There are starting to be some dump trucks coming on the market that are EVs, so we're trying to see what some other agencies that have purchased those, what their experience has been with them. We have 2, one of them is pretty old, so it's a candidate for
Okay.
replacement. Again, those are very limited use. The
Yeah.
most bang for your buck as far as getting the emission creating vehicles off the street is
the 5 pickup.
the 5 pickup trucks that get driven every day. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And we don't have any plan as of yet. They're not on our, well, we're coming up with a budget, so they might, be including it in a budget to replace them.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
one that's a 2005, so it's definitely kind of in that age where it's in and out of the shop more frequently than is ideal. But most of the other ones are less than 10 years old, so they're not really on our radar for replacement at this point. We could accelerate that if, if the numbers work out or if there's incentives to buy EVs.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Julian, like one of the thoughts I had, you kind of just hit on it, but one of the savings you guys are gonna have in terms of your time is the amount of time it takes to maintain a 20-year-old car
Yep.
versus like the F-150s you have that are 1-year-old. Like, I get it's kind of a pain in the butt to move the vehicle at night to charge the library or something, like that's not great versus the maintenance yard. But it's probably, I don't know, it would be interesting time-wise, how much it takes to go get oil changes and repairs on a 20-year-old vehicle.
Yep.
Like, these are things that I would think budget-wise might be able to make the conversation go smoother.
Yeah,
You know,
and
like costs
yeah.
lower.
And I think, like I said, I think for daily operations, we would be okay with only the 2 chargers, even if we had 6 trucks,
Yeah.
just interchanging them. The issue becomes if we do lose power for a while during an event,
Right.
then all the trucks need the, more frequently than just their daily use. But in that event, there may be other areas that we can go and charge them that aren't affected
I'm
by
thinking
that.
that you can like
outage.
4 vehicles and 6. You
Yeah.
can just have a schedule that, the first 2 charge on Monday night at the library, the next 2 charge Tuesday night. 'Cause my
Yep.
guess is you guys aren't using this
Yeah.
overnight. You're like, once the sun's down, you guys are pretty much done. unless
Yep.
It's an emergency.
Yep.
So, Julian, two things about this. One, is there like a written policy statement to do exactly what you're saying? So as they come up for replacement or renewal, the city's plan is to replace these 5 trucks with EVs?
Our climate action plan.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't, the only
That's the
reason
answer.
we would be replacing a gas vehicle with a gas vehicle is if there was not a feasible EV option, like the dump trucks. I think will probably be there by the time, right now,
Yeah.
we don't have enough information on the dump trucks and the reliability, but the F1, there's enough pickup trucks that have been out there and have a track record that we're comfortable swapping those out. So that's the plan for the climate action plan is we won't be. Yeah, we won't be buying any more gas vehicles unless it's the only choice in that,
That's
in
great.
that category.
The 2 other things I wanted to comment on, did you or did someone in staff, there was a heavy vehicle EV show up at the Marin Civic Center, I'm gonna say 6 months ago or something. Did anyone attend that?
Not that I know of.
It
Yeah.
might be worth, checking into what the record was on that. And then the other thing is I know there was a situation up in Novato. Again, this was within the last year where there was an agenda item to buy a new really heavy duty dump truck. And there were several people, including Marin Electrification Council, urging them to, instead of buying one, is lease one. with the idea, go ahead and lease it for 3 years, 5 years, whatever it takes for the technology to get up to the point
Right.
where then you buy the EV. So I'm just throwing that out as an idea.
Mhm.
If one of the heavy duty vehicles that Larkspur owns, breaks down to a point where it needs replacement,
Right.
just please keep in mind that idea of
Right.
leasing in the interim until the technology is there, that
Yeah.
an electric vehicle can be bought.
Okay.
And I think I
Just-
could find the website of that fair, even if there wasn't anybody from this
Okay.
group that was there. I think they have the list of everybody that was shown there, like all
It
the.
was a really impressive listing, and it wasn't like for the general public, it was for agencies and
Yeah.
municipalities and stuff
Okay.
to come look at heavy duty electrical
All the
equipment.
specialty vehicles, it's cool to see
Okay.
them, so I can
Mhm.
pass that along.
Yeah.
So,
Do you know you're recording yourself?
yeah, I'm gonna listen to it later.
Get 9 minutes
We're also
in.
supposed to know the-
If you have that, it
I
might.
think I
be
do.
in the same
Okay.
I'll make a
because
note.
There's probably some record, and at the very least, it would be a listing of what vehicles were shown.
Mhm.
So that if and when, the need comes
Okay.
up in Larkspur, you're not starting from scratch, but you can tap into it.
Mhm, I'll make a note.
Great, thank
I
you,
also
Katie.
heard that there was isn't the Slate pickup truck coming out at the end of the year, and that it's quite low cost. I think it's completely bare, so I don't know how much it adds up to by the time you add the things onto it that you need, but.
They're below 25 grand, but they're like the small mini pickups. I don't know if
Okay.
they're big enough for what you guys are doing.
We had one, we had like an S10 before
Yeah.
that we would use for lighter duty stuff, so something kind of that size would
Yeah.
probably work. Typically the crew that are on the streets have the bigger vehicles because sometimes they run across stuff they have to throw in the back, and the parks crews have had the smaller vehicles, but kind of depends.
Those are cool.
Okay, any other questions? Because we're gonna move on from the fleet update to our next item.
That's
Any other questions? No? Okay, all right. So this is the big topic for the night, I think.
A library,
The operational
Right.
strategies for our new battery storage system, which we're
Yes.
all very excited about.
right. So, the new library, which is just over a month away from being finished, as part of one of the enhancements to the project, we added rooftop solar panels and a battery backup system. So the PG&E service to the building is about an 800 amp panel, just for reference of how much power we're talking about relative to a single family home. The designers put as much solar as they could fit on the sloped portion of the roof, and then there's also, I would say, about a quarter of the flat portion of the roof also has solar panels on it. And so they ended up with 40 kilowatts of solar power on the roof, which is, I don't know what the average home is these days, 10-ish maybe.
Yeah.
So there's a good amount of solar power up on the roof, and it's coupled with a battery backup system. So there's an array of batteries that's the equivalent of 60 kilowatt hours in an enclosure just on the outside of the building. And these are scalable battery systems. So it's been set up on a pad and it's been plumbed, and there's room for 2 more of these 60 kilowatt hour cells to go in right next to it if there's need. So this is designed to so the battery has a number of functions. First of all, the solar is sized to, in theory, handle the needs of the building on an average day. But the building doesn't use the same amount of power all day. So there will be some times during the day when the building will require more power than the solar can provide. There will be cloudy days when the solar efficiency is lower. And in those circumstances, the building will draw in from the grid, much like it does on a regular home. But with the batteries, what the batteries do is the batteries get charged from the solar. If the solar is producing more power than the building needs, it will feed the batteries and make sure the batteries are full or at whatever level we can determine. It's a smart system, meaning that the battery can work both ways. We charge the battery up, and then it can also feed in and power the building. It's not just there as an emergency backup. If the building demand starts to become too much for the building, for the solar panels, rather than first going to the grid and getting power, the system can go to the batteries and pull power from the batteries. So if your batteries have been there all day charging or they're full, it can reduce your reliance on the grid somewhat because you can pull some of those peaks from the batteries. And then conversely, if your load is less than what the solar can provide, that excess solar, rather than going back to the grid and not getting any money back from PG&E, can go into your batteries to make sure they're fully charged for when you need them. So that's how they would function on a regular day. They'll be there as the first line of defense to add power to the building when we run out of solar capacity from the roof. And then once the batteries can no longer be used and the solar can no longer be used, then it draws from the grid. The other thing that the battery can do is it can power certain parts of the building in the event of a power failure. So normal day, the batteries are working. Sometimes they're getting charged, and sometimes their power's coming out of them for the building. But the other function of them is if the building loses power, then certain parts of the building can be powered by the batteries. It can't feed the whole building because there's some equipment in the building. The HVAC, the heating and the air conditioning units have big motors in them, and they take a lot of power just to get going, and that's too much power for the battery bank. So the HVAC and some of the other motors are not on the battery backup. But if the power goes out, the battery will come on. Most of the lights in the building, most of the receptacles around the rooms, the IT server, the camera system, the security, the most important functions of the building, other than the HVAC, which is an important function, would be able to run. And so if it was a time when we didn't need the heating and ventilation because the weather outside was okay and we could open up all those walls we have and windows, then you could run the library, probably at a reduced level. But you would be able to operate all the computers, and the IT and the server would be running off of the battery. So the battery's sized at 60 kilowatt hours. Probably the average draw on the building is going to be about 30 kilowatts, and there's a 30 kilowatt inverter there. The inverter converts the battery power into the usable power in the building. So what that means is, say your batteries were fully charged, the power went out, and you ran everything that's connected to that battery to the max, you'd have about 2 hours worth of use, which most PG&E power interruptions are less than 5 minutes. And then you get the ones that are a little bit longer, and then you get the ones that are really a big concern. But the batteries are basically there to help us through most of those little hiccups in the PG&E system. And they'll be our first line of defense. And then when the power comes back on, then they'll go back to running normally. Yes.
What you're describing is when the sun's not shining, right? So like if the PG&E power goes down because we have batteries and solar panels and the sun's shining,
yes,
the solar is still going to power the building.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and building on that point, so I think I understand the use case for like sort of minor interruptions. It's not like a massive storm or anything like that. Is there a vision for the library being used as like a public capacity, like as a place people can go in a big storm?
There is. So that's another part of the conversation that I think is somewhat part of the next item is what do we do in a longer term event? So the batteries have limited use, and they're not really intended we need to keep the building running for 2 days. Like, unless we only plugged a couple of things in, the batteries are going to wear out. And they're really to keep as normal an operation going as we can through a short period. Your typical something went wrong, it's easy to fix, and the power's back on type of situation. There's a way to program and set the batteries so that you can set them for a certain tolerance level. So imagine that we say we want to use the grid as little as possible. We want solar. When the solar's capacity is exceeded and the building needs more power, we want to draw from the batteries, and we want to draw from the batteries till they're almost like empty, and only then will we go and draw power from the PG&E grid. So that's minimizing your reliance on the grid and the amount you're going to have to pay your PG&E bill. But it's also using your battery up. So if that's your normal operation, if you do have an event where the power goes out, then your battery's not going to be of much use and you may not get a whole lot of downtime use of the building when the power's out because you've drawn your batteries down too much. You could do the exact opposite of that and say, I really want to make sure that I can run this building when the power goes out for a little bit. So I'm going to keep my batteries, like when they get down to 80%, that's it. Shut them off. I'm going back and I'm drawing power from the grid, and I'm going to keep my battery at 80%, and then it's going to charge itself back up so that if the power goes out, my battery is there. So somewhere in between there is probably where we want to be. I mean, we don't want to have these batteries sit there and never use them, right? So we want to be using that flexibility somewhat and drawing them down. There are some events we'll know about. If it's a PSPS, we'll know PG&E is going to shut down the power. So whatever our protocol is, we'll make sure the batteries are charged for that. But for the events where we don't know the power is going to go out and we lose power, we're probably going to want to make sure we have some amount of battery there. So that's something we're going to be able to dial in, and it's a trade-off, right? The healthier your batteries are for those power outages, the more you're relying on the grid day to day.
And is there no way to dynamically switch the programming? Is it a one?
Oh no, you can change it. You can
And
set it one way on a
like-
Monday and you can change it on Tuesday.
Right,
Yep.
because I know, and at least, sorry,
Mhm.
go ahead. I was just gonna finish my thought, which is that, I'm not familiar with how it works in these larger buildings, so I imagine it's similar. We just got a very similar setup in our residential, and it does have dynamic, like, storm watch stuff.
Yep.
That has been really helpful for us, even in the
Yeah.
couple of weeks we've had it, but, I guess if it already is smart enough to respond pre-storm, the larger question I would have is, I don't doubt the technology is there. The capacity is probably there,
Yeah.
we just need to plan for it. I think the question I have is, from like a wider community awareness perspective, like just as a regular resident in the community, do I even know to use, the library in those circumstances, right? Do we want to bring people to the library?
Yep,
for
so
any
we'll be
reason?
doing that kind of messaging. So we actually, another enhancement we did to the building was we strengthened the structure. So there's different classes of buildings, and a typical commercial building is called a class 2. Then a class 3 is a level above that. That's a public building where you want it to survive an earthquake, but it may not be functional after the earthquake. It may have big significant cracks and damage in it, but it won't collapse. The highest level is level 4, which means not only will a building survive an earthquake, but it will be inhabitable after the earthquake. So we upgraded this building to level 4 so that we could use it as a resiliency center or a disaster center. And we'll be pushing that messaging out when we figure out exactly how that works. And then part of that is, having power available, if we have some of these, events. But some of these, I'm talking about the different levels in the batteries, and we've been asking our consultants for, kind of what should we aim for. And the response that we're typically getting is you need to play with it. You need to run the building. You need to run a whole bunch of scenarios, because everything right now is just is charts and tables on a plan sheet that architects did from a code book, right? They don't know what the actual draw and the use is going to be on a building. And they said, if you're actually going to do it right, you need to plan and measure this out over a whole calendar year, because it's going to vary depending on the time of year and the temperature. And then you can see how much power you're using, and then you can really plot, and then you can dial your batteries in. And the more you understand the data and what you're using, you'll be able to set your batteries appropriately.
So I really like how you're thinking about this, and that last point I think is like spot on. I think there's two things I haven't heard that you're probably thinking about, but I would strongly urge you consider. One is just pure economics, and I'm assuming that your peak rate is similar to, like, a lot of us, it's 4 to 9, and the library usually closes around 7 or 8 or something. So I would suggest the batteries would be usually full. I'm just thinking on a regular sunny day,
Right.
not a crazy day, but just April 30th, something like that. You want to use those batteries during the peak hours. So to program them so that they can, go down, and then they shut the doors for the library, and, it's April 30th and there's no storm. We're not hopefully gonna have a fire.
Yep.
But let those batteries drain down so we're not paying for electricity.
Yep.
And then the second thought on that, it's completely separate from economics, that is a form of resiliency. By having that large load, being the commons, using your battery, that's freeing up grid resources for the rest of the
Yep.
neighborhood.
Yep.
Which is a different form of resilience, but really, really important given how
Yep.
overloaded the grid is in the Bay Area right
Yep.
now. So I would think of that as a form of resilience for the
Yeah.
resiliency center.
Yep. And the other thing, to add another wrinkle layer to this, is the batteries can not only charge from the solar, they can also charge from the grid.
Right,
So you could use your batteries when your PG&E rates would be the highest and drain your battery. And then overnight, when the rates are lower, you could charge your batteries back up from the grid if you needed to, if the calculations showed that you weren't going to be able to charge it enough the next day from the solar before the library load came on. So there's all different kinds of things
Yeah.
we're going to be
so
measuring.
so my straw man would be, let it drain down to whatever you're comfortable with, to say 5 kilowatts. Like,
Yeah.
once it gets to 5 kilowatts, maybe stop.
Yeah.
But then if there's a PSPS coming up and you know it at noon, or you know it the day before, then you
Yeah.
override that and you
Yeah.
leave it at 60 kilowatts.
Yeah. Okay.
I think you made some really good points, and it seems like you've got some really good resources at your disposal to work at, and a really good plan. The thing that I was thinking was, you didn't mention what information that you must have some information sources already about when you are losing power and how often is it that it's a surprise?
What do you mean by
Like where there's a an outage. Yeah.
Oh,
An unplanned outage.
oh yeah.
And then you can plan for the PSPS.
You can plan for the
You can plan for the
PSPSs. There's other shutdowns that PG&E do because they have to maintain their system. We get notified of those. Other than that, it was a lot worse 10 years ago. It's really there's been a lot of reliable, as much as I bash PG&E as much as everybody else does, but they have made some improvements with reliability and redundancy in the grid. And so the longer power outages, we've much more infrequent. We've had a lot of the lower duration power outages where they have back channels where if something goes down, they're able to backfeed
Sure.
another way. So not very often, unless there's like a significant event. If there's something that's regional, like in a big storm and a number of power lines get taken out, or they have resources out in a lot of places and they can't get to restore the power. But the brownouts and everything that we used to have in the summer just has not really been a thing as of late. So
So one of the thought, and Julian, thanks a lot for going over this. You can tell we're interested. And you might not have other groups to have this conversation with, so you certainly, I couldn't see you doing this at the city council meeting. But the one thing that I want to bring up is back to the resiliency center, or resiliency hub, is the one event that's totally unexpected, could happen anytime, and could put people down there as a major earthquake.
Yep.
So just in terms to your point, how far do you pull it down? It seems to me that you probably generally wouldn't want to pull it down, super low, with the possibility that there's an earthquake, and that becomes the resiliency hub for the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And when I say super low, I mean, I don't know what the number is, but there's some number. It's just an event we hadn't talked about yet, and I just want to bring that
yeah,
up.
so that's a little bit woven in with the next item on the agenda that's related. That's the use of a generator. So everything I've been talking about so far has been routine operations. We've got batteries, so we reduce our reliance on the grid, and they're there for our little hiccups with power delivery. If we have a major event where we have no power for a couple of days, the batteries are only going to serve us so much.
Right.
Number one, they cannot run the HVAC system.
Right.
And for health reasons, we can't have the building open if the HVAC is not running. So,
If you double the battery, would it?
Yeah, I was gonna.
no,
ask
you
you.
need,
Too small?
we had them, it's what it is, it's the inertia of when those systems get going that draws too much. They calculated you would need a whole parking space full of batteries in order to have enough power to start the HVAC up.
You need the diesel to run the HVAC in an outage.
Yeah, you look at, there's a lot of,
So let's say it's an earthquake.
Yep.
And it's summer, so it's sunny.
yep,
Can you can still run the HVAC off the solar? No.
no,
That's what he's saying.
no, the solar, you can't run it off the solar either.
So I guess we're gonna get to the generator, but one
Yes.
other thing I just want to bring up here as well. is I strongly favor this idea of using the battery system to also take advantage of off-peak pricing. I mean, that's one of the
Yeah.
best things about battery.
It gives us a lot of flexibility in
And
how
you're
we,
talking
yeah,
about the big transformers and equipment for like the level 3 charging when
Yep.
Opco was here. As I understand it, a lot of that heavy duty equipment you see at level 3 chargers
Batteries.
is batteries.
Mhm.
And the commercial charging companies like Tesla is literally doing that same thing. They're pulling off cheap power off peak and then selling it back to consumers for higher rates.
It also allows them to put the level 3 chargers in faster, because PGA wouldn't approve it without the battery. With
Exactly.
the battery,
It's
easier.
yeah,
so just a thought. I mean, that's a great
Yeah.
use of the batteries.
Yeah, play around with, like you said, I mean, that's the way you're gonna find this stuff out, like.
Yep.
I mean, on the earthquake thing, I think it's just another example. I'd like us to not have the mindset that we can't run solar for 7 days, cause like, most of the time the sun's gonna come up.
Yep.
And even this
Right.
time of year, where like today when it's raining, my solar panels were producing electricity.
Yep.
They weren't producing as much, but they would produce electricity.
Yeah.
So usually if the batteries run low overnight, the sun's gonna come up before the building opens.
You're gonna have
typically.
some power.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they'll charge next day.
yeah. So the initial plan, as you recall, for the building, it was designed with a generator as part of the project, and then we took that out. Mostly because it's there for emergency operations. We don't want, if we get the PG&E power goes out, it's out for 10 minutes. We're not firing up a generator for that.
Yeah.
And the batteries now let us take care of that situation. So there is a connection in the building for a drive up alternate power source, which as of now, the best option we have is a diesel generator. 5 years from now, there may be better batteries or solar units that you can drive up and connect, and everybody that's driving up generators, to their buildings can drive something else up. But that's kind of why we still have the connection there, is just to give us that flexibility to be able to run the whole building. And it's really, like you said, if it's a time of year where it's not freezing cold or really hot, then you can run the building without the AC. You just got to have windows and doors open, and you've got to have fans in there so you get some sort of circulation. But if there's any kind of temperature control that triggers the HVAC and it's going to be some prolonged event, I was almost going to say ice storm, but I don't, because I lived in Montreal, but some event where the power's out for that was a lot of fun for multiple days. Then you're looking at a generator, and we've talked about generators before, because we have a number of pump stations that also have a drive up connector for a generator, and we've typically in the past we've rented them, which works when it works. Hasn't not worked yet, but it's not ideal. And looking at all of the facilities now that we could potentially purchase a generator for and have it sit somewhere. I wouldn't have it sit at the library. I think that sends the wrong message, right? I would have it sit somewhere and then just roll it out when it's needed. I think based on the conversation of how infrequently PG&E power actually does go out, I don't know if it would ever show up at the library, but it's there if we need it. Like, we don't know when we're going to have the next big event, but we do lose power at our pump stations quite often in the winter during storm events that we could roll it out to. And it's just for the big storm drain pumps and for the big HVAC units, it's just the most efficient way to get backup power now. And it's still, even all these other projects, you see Redwood just put all of those solar panels in their parking lot. Right next to the solar panels, you can see there's a diesel generator sitting right there.
How big is it?
I'd say it's probably about a 200 kW.
How physically, is it a?
Oh, it's about the size of a minivan. Yeah, they're not huge.
Do you think the technology is changing in the next few years where you might get a better product? Like keep renting for 2 or 3 years if it's working, and then 3 years from now, maybe the product can be a lot better technologically?
It might. The other thing that's happening is with the regulations that keep changing, they're gonna get grandfathered out
Right.
at some point. Which
Yeah,
means
understand.
if you have one, you can keep renewing the clean air certificate for it.
Yeah.
But you won't be able to buy new ones. So they're actually, even though the other technology is coming out, the prices haven't really gone down on these, because the thought is they're going to have some good resale value because people will not be able to buy them in 3 or 4 years.
What's the successor technology?
Yeah,
I've seen units that are a similar size and they're covered in solar panels, and the solar panels are on arms and they come out and they charge bigger batteries. But I've only seen them advertised. I don't know anybody who has one. There's also an alternate hydrogen backup technology that's cleaner, but your fire marshal probably won't like it very much. The sewer district actually, who have way more pump stations than we do, did a study of how to provide backup because they were getting some pushback on having diesel generators. And they were looking at a hydrogen, but because a lot of their stations are in residential areas, the issues with hydrogen, if something goes wrong, are not something the fire department was in favor of in residential areas. So,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah.
I have a quick question for Jody. Jody, is this something that Sue Saunders was looking at in San Anselmo? If you're there?
Jody's on mute.
Do you mean the backup battery, the diesel batteries? I mean, the San
Yeah.
Anselmo, that whole unit they're working toward a resiliency center. So the number of kilowatt hours they have for solar and battery, I don't know all those details, but they very much are working on a resiliency hub. That is their microgrid resiliency hub project. Is that your question? I'm sorry.
Kind of, I'm not sure what my
Well,
question is, but I think that I would love it if Julian talked to San Anselmo and to Tom Flynn to see
Yeah,
what they're doing.
we have
He
talked to
probably
San
does.
Anselmo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he probably has.
Yeah, we talked to San Anselmo. They
Yeah.
did put up solar arrays. They did put up batteries.
Yeah.
But they're not getting rid of their diesel generator that they have there. It's another layer of redundancy, so they see value in that. And it's there for emergencies. It's not there for daily use. They're shifting the primary backup to the new electric backup they have, but they're still keeping the diesel there as another layer of defense.
Thanks.
One other thing, I remember this discussion, during the design phase of the library. And one of the things we talked about was that Larkspur has contracts with suppliers of generators and that Larkspur pays like a retainer so that, you have first dibs on that. Has it ever happened that either the supplier or the generator hasn't come through? They said, yeah, you have a retainer, but we don't have any generators. And what do you think the risk of that happening is?
So it hasn't, and just to be clear, we don't have contracts. What we have is we have a really good working relationship with a rental company that we rent pumps from and generators when needed. And the arrangement is if we feel we have a need upcoming, we will notify them and they will let us know then if they're down to their last one and say, hey, we're down to our last one. Somebody may call me for it. Do you guys want it? It's available to you, but you have to say I want it now or I'm gonna let it go. So we get that last call notification from that vendor that they're running low and that if we think we're gonna need one, now's the time to go get one. It's not on reserve. There are companies that are out there that do like a subscription. Yeah, where you pay a monthly fee to have a generator available and they have, here's a fee you pay to have one at your site in 4 hours. Here's a lower fee that you could pay and I can have one there within 24 hours. So we've talked to a company that does that as an option.
Yeah, and the other thing that I wonder about is, again, with an expectation of subsequent technology, in a few years down the road,
Mhm.
I wonder if that model I was talking about with Novato, does it make more sense for Larkspur to lease a generator and physically have it?
Yeah.
For emergency use. And then maybe a lease to buy option or something like that. And if the subsequent technology doesn't look like it's gonna be sufficient, then go ahead and exercise the buy and then you'd have it. I'm just thinking,
Yeah, I think
are there
it's,
other paths,
yeah. One of the advantages to buying it, there are a few more restrictions with leasing versus buying. But the issue with renting them is they're very strict on what you can do with a generator. So typically all of these pump stations have different loads and the library will have a different load. and generators are designed for a certain load range that they're comfortable with. If you operate them outside of that load range, you can cause damage and then you're on the hook to the rental company or whatever. If it's your own generator and you own it, there are modifications you can make to it so that it will accept a wider range of loads. So it becomes more customizable and more flexible if we actually own it. And then the other thought was, we've called around before to other agencies that have diesel generators and kind of asked if do they have an extra one that we could come and borrow so we don't have to come and rent one? And the answer is always, well, no, we don't really want to let go of the one we have. But part of the thought was most agencies have one. Corte Madera has a couple of them. Is if there was a pool of these in the county that everybody owned, then if somebody really does have a big disaster and they need a number of these, that we're able, we have a little bit more flexibility in mutual aid if we're part of that whole puzzle. Like if we have really bad flooding here and I have like 3 pump stations down and I don't want to be hopping one generator between the 3 of them, if we have an agreement with the other Marin agencies that also own generators, it'll be easier to get their generator, assuming they don't have the same flooding issues, depending on what the event is. We may all need our generators.
That exists, or is it in conversation? Because I think the mutual aid thing solves a lot of problems.
There's some mutual aid, but it's very informal. There's no formal policy about renting generators. Again, one of the issues with it is they're expensive units. And so we often, like during the last storms, we went and we borrowed pumps from Marin County and from a contractor. There's only so much you can do wrong with a pump, but there's a lot of things that can go wrong with a generator. There's a lot of moving parts in it. So lending a $200,000 generator to somebody that's never ran that generator before, so there's a little bit of risk associated with it. So it would be good to do something that's a little bit more formal and see if we all have roughly the same brand, and then do some cross training and just have an agreement where have some protection in case something goes wrong with one of them.
Bringing this item up on the agenda today is probably to get some community input about this side. I think I'm personally open to the idea of Larkspur acquiring an emergency generator that could be used in many different settings. It was kind of a different reaction when it was kind of focused on the library, where we thought a different solution, with the solar for backup there.
Yeah.
But I mean, if that's what you're looking for, at least my personal opinion, I'm open to the idea of potentially getting that.
One thing that.
I'm just giving my personal,
Yeah.
I'm not speaking for anybody else.
Yeah.
I had 2 thoughts. One I'll mention on this issue, and the other I want to go back to something you said earlier that's unrelated. But on this issue, I guess the one thing I would think that might be useful to the case is just the pure economics. Like in the last 3 years, how much did renting cost on an average year? Not the highest year, not the lowest year, maybe whatever you have data, 5 years, whatever. Is it this big, and then it's $200,000 for a generator? Like, where do those numbers line up?
Yeah,
Like,
and
let the
think-
money drive it a little bit.
I think that's right, because the reality is, it's not gonna be used except in an emergency situation.
But it's gonna be maintained, which means your staff's gonna have to maintain it.
Somewhat.
Right, so that's the
yeah.
economics, but what I'm saying from a climate standpoint and environmental, it's being used whether it's a rented one or an owned one. I mean, if it's gonna run for X number of hours.
Yes, but if I can build on that and sorry, JJ, you want?
Yes.
No, let's keep on this, because there's something I want to go, you said unrelated to this, I want to get back to.
And just in the spirit of sort of like wrap up input, at least from my perspective, I think everything that you shared about all of the like solar and battery system at the library is just really exciting. And I think the programming that you discussed for like regular days makes a lot of sense. I concur that I think the use of a diesel generator, while it's not the best possible climate solution, we're talking about an emergency situation that hopefully happens very rarely. And I think that taking care of people is the more important thing. But maybe it's not a silver bullet, but I do wonder, I'm curious about the economics as you discussed, JJ, but also like, if it's not a huge headache, I do think the mutual aid thing could be really interesting, because we may need fewer generators, right? You don't have this sort of panic to hoard generators. You have fewer people buying them outright. It might actually, with a caveat, if it's not too much of a headache, it might actually have net fewer generators in circulation and maybe save people a lot of headache and money. So if we're going to do it, I think that's a really nice way to do it.
Yeah, I'll say something I think if we're talking economics, I don't know you're going to get it purely to pencil economic wise, and it's not, I mean, that's part of the equation, but the other part of it is the added benefit of having one right here and not having to go and get one and hope that it's there or call around and try and borrow one. So that's more of the advantage. I think if I were to add up everything that we've paid in the 10 years I've been here to rent a generator, probably wouldn't add up to the $200,000 cost. But the headaches and, you know, the community's sense of our emergency response, if they know that, you know, I know there's areas of town that would feel a lot more comfortable when they go to bed at night in the middle of a rainstorm if they knew that there was a generator 5 minutes away from their subdivision versus Julian's got to figure out how to get one at 4 in the morning.
I'm not saying that economic
Yeah.
it's certainly not the only factor.
Right.
I think it is a factor, so it's
Okay.
good to put in, and I would just price in the cost of headaches.
Yeah.
Like put a
Yeah.
fictitious number on what the cost of headaches are.
Okay.
And the other thing that's sort of along these lines is you don't want to necessarily share a generator with, I don't know, a Vallejo, it's too far away. But what if Corte Madera wanted to pay for half of it, we pay for half of it, and it's 5 minutes away from the marina? So there's different ways of thinking about, like, economics shouldn't drive it totally, but it shouldn't be absent from the conversation.
If I can add one more thing on that, and this, I hesitate to say this because the last thing I want to do is make anyone feel like uncomfortable in an emergency situation. Like, just want to be very clear, like everyone should be taken care of in an emergency. And I think from a public education perspective, like it might be useful for residents to understand that we may not have, let me reveal my bias. Ultimately, we want people to get their own solar and battery systems. Ultimately, speaking from a climate perspective, we want people who can to prepare their own homes, right? Like if you have the ability to do it, and there are a lot of folks in Larkspur who do, like, yes, we'll all look out for each other, but I think there's something to be said about like speaking purely as a resident. If I know that there will be some backup generator availability and the city's going to do everything they can to take care of everybody, but you know, there are some reliances on other communities. Like there might be some areas where we aren't be able to get things as quickly or as easily as we'd like. It's going to prompt me to do what I can to make my home resilient. And again, I don't want to trigger like fear, but I think there is something interesting in that around what can people do to make their own homes resilient as part of community resilience, in addition to everything that the city is doing.
I think that's valid for whether we would have a generator solely for the library or not. I actually think the biggest need for the generator is going to be the pump stations. And that's something that, you know, one pump at one station can have an impact on saving 200 homes from getting
You're right.
flooded. And they don't really have a whole lot of options for some of that stuff. So
Since it is meaningful, right?
Yep.
Like if your choice is to make your home more resilient or have to head down to the library.
Understood.
Interesting angle.
Yep.
But yeah, thanks for clarifying the pump issue.
Sort of segues to the separate issue I was gonna
Yep.
mention. You went through quickly, I'm not sure I got it, but
Okay.
you were saying that the HVAC system can't work because the power's out.
Right.
And I'm just gonna attach this to, there's an evacuation or something, so people are going down to the commons. And the weather's fine. It's not 90 degrees, not 0 degrees, it's 65.
Yep.
Are you saying you can't open the doors and let people go in and charge their phones inside the building because the HVAC is not turned on?
You have to have a certain amount of air turnover in a building for it to be legal to be
So
occupied.
you open all those doors.
Open the doors, open the clear story windows, open some other windows. If it's a short duration, you're
Yeah.
probably okay.
Yeah.
If it's a whole day, you're not
I just want to
probably.
make sure there's not some law that says people can't go into a building.
No.
Okay.
And we're planning on getting, as part of the security and door access system, they also have air quality monitors that will help us so that we would know if we have you know, a short duration, we're on batteries, the HVAC is not working, we're not gonna make everybody evacuate the library.
Right.
We're gonna do what we can to flush out the building, and then we'll have to start figuring, hey, this is now 2 hours, this is now 4 hours. You know, we're not gonna be able to turn the building air over.
So where I was coming from is like, well, some of us are involved in the NRGs.
Yeah.
And we plan for these
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah.
And we tell people to go to places like Piper Park, and we're gonna tell people to go to the Commons.
Yep.
If there's, you know, they're fighting a fire on King Mountain or something.
Yep.
And I wanted to make sure the building should be open if the weather's okay.
Yeah.
In the
So-
future, we're gonna be telling people to evacuate to the generator.
Um,
That was a joke.
so I wonder if there's an option, can you open the building for the the person who's monitoring the receptacles, you know, can you have, rather than have the building be fully open for, whatever the building capacity is,
Right.
can you open it to for maintenance staff who are going in and switching out these phones that are getting charged, that kind of thing?
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, for utility work, yeah, it's just as a public building, we wouldn't be able to allow the public in. But if we wanted to go in and monitor the air and do things that we needed to do, we'd be able
The
to
charge
do.
phones was
to do
really
that.
what I was thinking.
Yeah.
about.
Speaking
Yep.
of ClearSource, that's another thing in your little toolbox if you gotta run the building and stuff, but it's amazing how much you can reduce the HVAC load by just having the ClearSource open on the right schedule.
Yep.
9 months out of the year. There's gonna be heat trapped at the top of that building.
Yeah,
That's why we insisted that they be operable.
I know, but
To be
I
able
wanna
to
make sure, I wanna make sure the algorithm is working properly for that.
yeah. Yeah. And they're wired into the battery backup too, so if the power goes out, they'll still
Yeah.
open as they're supposed to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it should make batteries last longer.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be up to the librarian to hit a button, it's just.
Yep.
Just out of curiosity, is Hall Middle School also still our resilience center or?
So it's not. We have there's a project that's in our capital improvement program to look into what it would take to make it
Okay.
one. Hall the gym there there are some ADA issues that if it's going to be a public space, change the use of public space, it's grandfathered in as a school. But if we're going to change the use and make it a resiliency center, then it would need some upgrades. It does not have air conditioning. It only has
Okay.
heating. So that's one of the big obstacles. There's a checklist from the state as far as if you're going to make a building a resiliency center or an
Okay.
evacuation center, things you have to meet. It also doesn't have backup power. There's no generator over there. They have some solar, not sure how much. But yeah, those are the two biggest things. So we're working with the school district now to kind of scope out what that would look like and put a number to it, because there are grants that come up every now and then for resiliency centers and things like that, that we think it's a big open space that would allow a number of people in there that aren't right on top of one another. But overall, that's the city's goal, is to have satellites of resiliency centers, so we're not crowding everybody into one space.
Lena's got her hand raised. How long it's been on?
Oh. All right, are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
absolutely.
Lena?
Yes.
Muted now.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thanks everyone. And so sorry, I had major technical issues, so I got into this meeting very late. But I think you just touched on something that I was curious about, which is to what extent maybe grants or other kind of funding collaborations have been explored for clean solutions. And I am certainly by no means an expert on this, but have also come across companies like Bloom Energy that has fuel cell solutions, that also has a number of use cases where they do support clean kind of fuel cell based solutions for community centers and situations like this. So I'm just curious, has that been explored? And if not, is there a role that we can help in sort of mapping out maybe some of those opportunities or connecting dots as you kind of progress the work? And it certainly sounds like there's been lots of research and effort put into this, in parallel, but just curious if there's a gap where we can support further.
Yeah, so we can reach out as we get a little bit further along. We're still trying to put the scope together for Hall and what it would take, and then we'll have certain components of that will be identified. And then, yeah, if anybody has any information on any grants that may fit all or pieces of that program that may be needed, we'd be looking for that in the future. But we don't have the full scope of what would be needed at the moment for Hall. As far as the library goes, we did work with the CETA folks through the County of Marin, which is the California Environmental Design Assistance Program, I think. So they reviewed the entirety of the building, all the mechanical and HVAC and the building envelope. And we got a credit back from them for the sustainable features of the building. And then there are rebates coming back to us for both the batteries and the solar and the EV chargers are all grants or rebates that we have applied for or will apply for as soon as the building is finalized.
Oh, great. Thank you. And are there any opportunities, I mean, just to extend this to the backup generator?
There might be, depending on what that technology is. Again, we'll chat with our consultants that have looked into this, but most of the backup options for large pumps have always landed on being the diesel generators, of which there's not much out there for. But we can check in with them again as we move forward, and it seems like we want to evaluate some options for this and get the latest information. I mean, I don't know how frequently this stuff changes, but I know it's evolving technology, and a lot of it is just size, and because we are looking for something that's mobile, so that we can use it at our pump stations and building. That's what we've seen so far. And the alternate to the diesel generators, the size is just too much for something that would be convenient enough to be able to move quickly through these events. But it's kind of like cell phones used to be the size of briefcases, and then they became bricks, and now they would be smaller if people wanted smaller screens. So it could be evolving, but we can check in and see what the latest and greatest is before we actually put ink to paper on finalizing the path we go down.
Jillian, you know how many pump stations Corte Madera has?
I don't. I would guess a dozen, maybe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We only have 3.
No, we have 3 that don't have generators. The one out of Boardwalk has a generator. It was built a long time ago. Heatherwood has a generator. The other ones just have hookups for generators. Yep.
It just seems to me like that might, I don't know, you've probably been down there, so there might be a reason why it doesn't work, but splitting one somehow in a reasonable ratio with Corte Madera might.
Yeah, they have a couple of big ones that I inquired about, and the option of having an agreement to rent it. And at the time, it wasn't something they were interested in, but we can ask again.
Yeah, or just, yeah, I mean, maybe they don't want to buy one if they already have 2, but
Yeah.
it's not felony.
All right, any other questions for Julian? Unfortunately, I think we're gonna have to punt our last item to our next meeting, given that we're at 8:25. Sorry for.
Can I make a suggestion on that last item though? Because 2 months is a long way away.
I know.
And I think there may be opportunities to use this before then. So I don't know if you guys picked this on the list, but can we talk about this just?
Yeah, we have 5 minutes. I mean,
So what this is, you may recall from the last meeting, there had been this process of sort of looking through the Larkspur Climate Action Plan and trying to identify out of there, what are the highest priority items to really focus on in terms of climate actions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And there had been some work done on that. And there were 2 things that sort of came out of that meeting. And I actually volunteered to work with Sarah on a follow-up action, and this is the result of that. And the follow-up action had 2 parts to it. One was to go through the wording of what we talked about at the last meeting, because that wording mostly came out of the climate action plan. It was written 5 years ago. And since then, there had been a lot more thinking about it. And so the point that I made is we shouldn't be necessarily locked into the exact wording that was written 5 years ago if we have better insight now as to what the problem is and how to state it. Okay, so there was that. The other thing is the work that had been done to date only took information from Larkspur's climate action plan. And yet there were these 2 other major documents produced after that, the Marin Countywide Building Electrification Roadmap and the Marin Countywide EV Acceleration Strategy. So I also volunteered to let's mine those sources as well and not be stuck with what we wrote 5 years ago, but to kind of update it. So I worked on this some, Sarah worked on it some, Shannon worked on it some. And what you see here is a called list of what we came up with as kind of what we thought were the top priorities for climate action. Okay, and then there's some more work behind this that has specific, more specifics. These are fairly broad in their statement, but real specific actions for Larkspur to take to implement each one of these broad priority actions. The sheet that was back there, this more detailed one, has some of that work. In my opinion, it's not quite rolled up yet to an easily digestible form. But I would like, you know, for if you guys had just a minute to take a look at these, does this sound kind of right? And remember, we were going to focus primarily on stuff around transportation and building electrification, that those were the overriding themes. These are the things that came out. Like I say, we've got a bunch more detailed actions on that big list. So
Yeah.
I'll stop right there, but I'd rather this not sit for another 2 months.
Yeah, no,
And David, just in the spirit of time, I did have a chance to look over these, and just in terms of my own personal reaction, I am aligned with these wider priorities, and especially as they make their way to council as like a good representation of our priorities or our perspective on priorities from CAF. As ever, the thing I always worry about is measurement
Right.
and actual impacts, given that a lot of it is about promotion and encouraging. And it's not to say that they're not the right priorities, but I think this is a new documentary that I haven't yet seen. And I do think that directionally these are the right priorities. The next level down around what are the true actions that
The
come out of
specific
it.
actions, yeah.
With this guidance, I think gives us the best of both worlds. Council can know what we're focused on, but it's this is where the rubber hits the road, right?
Yeah,
Like it's the real actions that we can measure, we can come back to with progress that people actually see,
Yeah.
and who owns them. That's the.
And what the bigger document does is we sat down, in fact, it was just yesterday, we sorted through a whole bunch of stuff. And decided we're gonna try and get 3 or 4 really specific actions to support each of those priorities.
Okay.
And they're in there, like I say, that they're not in a good presentational form right now. But I think we could get those back up in a better presentation, maybe send it out to the CAF members and just say, does this look right? Including maybe throw on some ideas of measurement, but most of them are either you do them or you don't do them. I mean, some of them may be good candidates for some metrics, some progress metric along the way. But I would say we could probably do that because we already identified the 3 or 4 specific ones for each one of these.
Right, like as an example, like what we saw earlier from Annika with Ride and Drive Clean, like that DMV level data of 41% of new cars were, like that's the level. We're obviously not gonna be able to do that for every single item.
Right.
But it's that level of like trailing indicators that I find to be so useful.
Yeah,
Of course, you're right, some of it is, did we send the campaign or did we not?
yeah.
But that secondary layer of impact is so
But-
much more
but-
valuable.
A good example of that, actually, and one of the items we talked about was on some of these that are more especially the last one, conduct robust community outreach and education to promote blah, blah, blah. Is, you know, we had stuff then like doing supporting EV car shows, supporting repair fairs, you know, that kind of stuff. And it would be easy to apply metrics to some of those, like between this time and this time, support at least 2. You know, I mean, I think that a lot of the metrics could be that, like put a number of how many times you're gonna do this, or how many times you're gonna
Or how much
accomplish.
of our little budget went toward supporting it for people.
Exactly. So I think it's doable.
because we're on top. I like this list. One quick thing is I put like little 2-word headings in front of them because they all sound kind of similar, but like this one's EV charging, this one's natural gas.
Right.
Because
Okay.
otherwise the wording looks like 90%, like
Okay.
2 and 3, the wording looks very, very similar.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's more of like a formatting thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's something missing here, and I don't want to put
Yeah.
anyone on the spot here, but you know, I think almost all of us were here at city council 9 months ago, and we thought we passed a green building ordinance.
Mhm.
And now we found out it didn't pass, and maybe there's a second way to do it. And I don't even think city council has been fully briefed legally on what their choices are. But I think the thing that's missing here is we need an enforceable, in place building ordinance for all electric for new buildings. which we passed. I mean, they
Mhm.
voted, I forget what the vote was. It was at least 3. I think it was, anyways. It passed,
Mhm.
Not yet.
but it's
That was
now,
unanimous.
thank you, unanimous. But somehow mysteriously, things have changed and it's not effective. So if you're the builder and you want to put in a bunch of gas appliances, you can do it even though city council unanimously said. Anyways, I think that needs to be the number 1 priority, or it needs to be on the top 5.
Yeah.
Understood, JJ.
I don't know how to word it
It's
properly.
it's part of the individual actions,
Yeah,
so it is encapsulated
Specifically
Yeah.
adopt ordinances that do X, Y, Z.
yeah, so it's,
I would put it in simple man's language.
yeah, as a top,
New multifamily buildings need to be all electric, period. And like not get into semantics, like
well,
that's what
but
we voted on
yeah.
5-0.
I agree.
So
Um,
anyways, I don't want to get on a pedestal, but that's not in here and I think it should be.
And yeah, elevated to the hot.
I guess what I'm not clear on is, so if we adopted the 2025 building codes, the state, I believe, is moving us in that direction of all electric, right?
For new.
Right, for all new
Yeah.
construction, so that has been adopted and approved by city council.
Yeah,
What I don't understand is we aren't able to adopt all of the Cal Green Tier 1 reach codes because of the energy efficiency studies that haven't been done. So the previous process was to put through the California Energy Commission the request for us to adopt, but because those energy efficiency studies had not yet been performed, we need to find a new authority to promote any updates to our local ordinances. The only updates, we have adopted all the updates that existed from 2022. We're allowed to do that. I'm not exactly clear, other than promoting EV infrastructure and a flex path or something around remodels, not new buildings, but remodels is where we really want to try to push somebody if they're gonna do a remodel. And right now, the substantial remodel is the language that we use in our municipal code, which means like 50% or more of the footprint of the existing building. There's definitely been a push from this community to reduce that to 500 square feet. So those are the items that I think, and look, I'm just learning all of this, so I'm not 100%
You're
clear,
better
but
versed in details than I am. So that's why I'm sort of avoiding the remodel question, because to me, there is a lot of, I don't know, there's some minutia we can get into.
yeah,
But where I'm going is, developer puts down the documents, sort of like what's happening in San Rafael right now.
Yeah.
And I'm as Yimby as in the next person. Like, I want new housing.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't want them to use some loophole and then somehow planning commission or city council could say, hey, developer, no, you need to do all electric. I just want the city to work as hard as they can to have the big new buildings come
Yeah.
in under the housing element, be all electric.
100%.
So I don't know how to say that as simply as possible, but I would like to see that in here somewhere.
So correct me if I'm wrong, David, but my understanding is that the state law will require that. However, if there is some kind of bonus density, there is a bonus density
Yeah.
law. So if the builder decides to increase the number of affordable units or below market rate units, then they can basically walk past anything
That's
that's,
only for local ordinances. That's
Right.
what they can waive.
Any
But
local.
state law right now,
Yeah.
the 25 building code that the city of Larkspur just adopted at the
Yes.
last meeting says it goes as far as it possibly can to require that all new buildings be all electric. And when I say possibly, it's only because there was the federal case using the city of Berkeley
Yep.
that said federal law preempts the ability to require that buildings be all electric. So what the state code says, it sets standards. It sets as the standard basically an all electric building and say you can use any fuels you want as long as they're as efficient as if it was all electric.
Right, but the thing I'm getting
So-
to, and Sarah knows
Yeah.
more about this than I do, but in good faith, 5 people voted 5-0, and they thought that they were in time, that they were before the buzzer rang.
Right.
But what I think the city council's been briefed on more recently is, oh, whoops, no, you were too late.
Mm,
No, not
not
exactly.
that we were too
As
late.
long as it's aligned with goals set out in
The
the
general plan.
jurisdiction's general plan, they can still pass local
Okay.
ordinances. But even if they pass the local ordinances, if a
The develop-
building developer comes in and meets the state density bonus requirements, they can waive the local.
And that's
Yeah.
not something that
Not the
our
state-
clerical error.
Not the state,
All right,
but
well, yeah, all right, I'll stop talking because maybe I'm misunderstanding something, but I thought city
we can
council.
talk some more about
I
it.
thought city council was told that it in fact was too late, and that was more recently, they were told that after the vote.
Oh, no. I think what you're mistaken is that actually we had some public comment from David about changing some of our local ordinances. And specific to some things he was doing with his JADU. So those things we can still make changes to. It didn't, adopting the 2025 code, maybe I'm wrong, but didn't preclude us from making changes as we move forward. I don't know where you're getting that we were too late part, but
It's within my household, I'll find out.
okay.
I think we should go talk about this over beers.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
anyway, I just wanted,
Okay.
Good point, though.
I just want to make sure that the buildings are gonna be electric. That's-
I am with you 100% and I'm doing everything I can to push for that direction.
I just didn't.
Um, Yeah, no, it is incorporated at the action level. And there are other ideas that are things that I'm pursuing too. Yeah. So,
And maybe next meeting,
yes,
well, I would propose that we improve the detailed actions linking
Yes.
to this. And I think you have a great idea of putting a subject in front of each
Yeah.
one of these, so it
Mhm,
comes out
mhm.
easily.
Yep,
And then distribute that to the Climate Action Forum for
okay,
review and comment. Maybe everyone says it looks great, or here's a few comments, and maybe we can go ahead with that in advance of our next meeting.
I think
Yeah,
that's
because
great.
it's
I
all-
wanna completely revisit the dashboard to be focused completely on this, because the whole reason why we made a dashboard is so we can focus.
Yeah.
So we can focus on the only things we wanna do and do them.
yeah, yeah,
And so if this helps us get there in plain English, that is the goal. So
Yeah.
I'm very happy to retool however we need to.
Including.
because I think that ultimate goal is,
Show us
so
quickly.
April will be our 1 year anniversary. At that point, we want to have,
Big reveal.
yes, no, we want to be able to put in front of council.
Yeah.
Here are the priorities, here are the actions that we want staff to focus on.
Yeah.
You know, council, are you willing to
So-
bless these?
Sounds good, and maybe not have a special presentation next time, so we can.
No, yeah, we won't,
That's-
we won't,
that's
we
it.
won't.
Okay.
Good job, Sarah and Julian, thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you guys
for
for
coming.
coming.
Super helpful
Julian, it was good to have you
conversation.
here. It was
Yeah.
great.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Lita,
Issues.
for joining.
Jody, see you later.
You're welcome. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Bye, have a good night.
It was great to be able to talk about some of these issues in a more informal setting here.
Right.
It is
Not
great.
with the.
Okay, are we good with me ending the webinar?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So